Okay, I think we can start. So first of all, good morning, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the C Summit so far. And welcome to the deep dive session on public-private collaboration for recovery, how corporate social investors and EU institutions can partner up. My name is Bianca Polidoro, and I'm the EVPA policy manager, and I will moderate this session. But before introducing the two great speakers of today's session, I would like to do an icebreaker exercise. So if you can please tell, or just tell me, or write in the chat where are you from, and in which country would you like to visit once the pandemic is over? Because I think we are all dreaming to have a trip soon. So if someone wants to share with us, or just write in the chat as you prefer. Okay, I am reading now that Francesca from Italy, she's from Italy and she's dreaming going to Portugal soon. Thank you, Francesca, for sharing. And Gloria is from Italy as well. Okay. Perfect. So Patrick from Berlin, Germany, dreaming on flying away to Vietnam. I understand, Patrick. I also would like to go to Vietnam. So thank you very much. And now let me introduce today's speakers. Filippo Munisteri, team leader for social investment at DG ECFIN in the European Commission, and Peter Surek, head of social banking, Erste Group, and CEO, Erste Social Finance Holding. A warm welcome to both. Filippo will start with a short presentation on one of the programs of the next EU budget, InvestEU, highlighting the opportunities and challenges for corporate social investors. And then Peter will share with us Erste's experience of co-investment with public sector, showcasing best practice examples. After these two short presentations, we'll divide you in breakout rooms for question and discussion. Now, please, Filippo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bianca. Good morning, everyone. I'm also like dreaming of flying away from all this, of course. Vietnam sounds indeed very tempting. So in the meantime, back to reality at the moment. My reality is made very much of the negotiation on the next InvestEU program, and this is the program that will replace the so-called Juncker plan in the next programming period, 21-2027. What we are currently negotiating with the Council and the Parliament is the structure of the program in the wake of the budgetary agreement that was struck between the member states in July of this year. You might remember the endless summit of July, and now with the European Parliament on the 10th of November. What you see here is a little bit the structure of the InvestEU program. It will be composed as proposed by the Commission by an InvestEU fund to mobilize private and public investment using a budgetary guarantee, an advisory hub like we have today with the Juncker plan, and the InvestEU portal, our database for matchmaking between projects and investors. The InvestEU program federates all the financial instruments which were managed directly from the European Commission. You see some of them in the slide. You might be familiar, for instance, with the EASY program for microfinance and social enterprises, for instance, Innofin, COSME for SMEs, you name it. In the InvestEU program will be articulated in most likely 4 investment windows at this point in time. And the four windows which are about sustainable infrastructure, research and development, small medium companies, and social investment skills, which is probably the one most relevant to this audience, but not necessarily. In terms of budget, we were a little bit, very much penalized, let's say, by the budgetary decisions of the co-legislators. So we are speaking about a level of 26 billion budgetary guarantee. This, of course, because in the meantime, between the first proposal of the Commission of 2018, a lot of things have changed. We tried to beef up the proposal in May 2020, but you saw that the decision of the member states was to privilege a little bit the route of the recovery and resilience facility and the national recovery plans, as opposed to a pan-European product and program like InvestEU. So I think we can go to the next slides. I will be very quick to explain you. Okay, yes, this slide shows a little bit how does it work in InvestEU. We operate through implementing partners, like those are the European Investment Bank and Fund, but as from this programming period, also the other national promotional banks. And this might be very interesting for you because, of course, it's is an effort to go a little bit more local than the Juncker plan has done so far. And then those implementing partners can implement their own financial products either directly or through the financial intermediaries. Financial intermediaries, which can be commercial banks, guarantee societies, microfinance providers, venture capital, different types of funds, and even foundations can be indeed considered as financial intermediaries. In this case, then the financial intermediaries would then, of course, convey financing through like loans, guarantees, equity, so forth to the final recipients. Another important element is the fact of the possibility of contribution that you see at the bottom of the slides or share management fund into InvestEU. So part of the structural fund can be implemented through the so-called member state compartment as a financial instrument under InvestEU, and we are exploring the similar mechanism to do this with the recovery and resilience facility. So a similar system whereby a part of the national recovery plan can be implemented through InvestEU for the windows that we have. And then if we go to the next slides, perhaps this give you an overview. I mean, perhaps we can go on this in more detail in the breakout session, but the kind of risk revenue sharing arrangements we have with our implementing partner, typically either a pari passu basis on a first loss piece basis, still with a little bit of skin in the game, as you can see. And if we go to the next slide, again, this is more developed for explaining what the social investment skills window is about. We do a little bit of the continuation, of course, of what we are doing at the moment. So financing for micro enterprises, microfinance, social enterprises, and so forth. We have an interest into market structures which are new, so including, for instance, innovative schemes like social outcome contracts, payment by results schemes, and so forth. And of course, we have parts on social infrastructure and human capital investments, including upskilling and reskilling. If you proceed, perhaps I can tell a little bit more about who are we going to target with all this. Indeed, you see a list which is fairly like broad of who can be a final recipient, but in our investment guidelines, we also have a role for foundations and venture philanthropy when it comes to the possibility, as I was mentioning before, to act as financial intermediary of implementing partners. This is explicitly mentioned in the investment guidelines for the social window, but it can be of course also the case for other windows. I mean, so is very. I would really encourage all the actors which are like foundations, venture philanthropy, to touch base with our potential implementing partner and see as they can do. They can be, of course, foundations, can be also like LPs, co-investors, and so forth. This is something that is already happening today with the EIF, and can be final recipients, as we see in the slide. If we go forward again, to the next slide, this is a little bit more targeted to the advisory hub. The advisory hub might be especially interesting for the talent or the people in the current audience, because when it comes to supported capacity building, creating a pipeline of all these market making activities, as we call them, down in on the right hand side at the bottom, I think like your members can really bring some added value there. And the main areas where we are going to intervene, of course, are indeed capacity building, financial structuring, and project preparation. With a local reach out, again, the advisory hub will be, if you want, scattered through all the different advisory partners that we will have, which will not only be the EIB group like it is for now, but we kind of go local from this perspective as well. And if you go to the next slide, which I think is this is an overall slide that speaks a little bit more about the ecosystem and how we can interact with philanthropy on several different dimensions, which go beyond, of course, the InvestEU program as such. I see Georgia, who is like the brilliant author behind this slide, is also in the audience. So hi, Georgia. I'm stealing your slide, and but this of course gives you a little bit of wider like horizon about the collaboration that we have with the world of philanthropy, also beyond InvestEU, and when it comes indeed also about more you see, I don't know, outcome funds, for instance, you see like other matching funds and so forth. I mean, this is something like we would like to strengthen the use of mission related investment and so forth. I mean, this is something perhaps we can develop later on in the breakout session, because I see my time is over for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Filippo. For sure there will be many interesting questions. But now, please, Peter, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Greetings from Vienna. I hope you can hear me and see me. So kindly ask you to move to the first slide, where there is some kind of introduction about who we are and where we come from. Actually, Erste Group, as you can see there, was founded approximately 200 years ago. And the interesting fact that it was actually founded as a social organization, as a social bank, or you could call it in today's terms, social enterprise, which was having non-profit mission, and where actually volunteers were helping ordinary people at that time to be able to save some money and to get credit for their activity. The bank has developed throughout the years. In 1997, it went to stock exchange and basically expanded an activity from Austria into the whole territory of CE. So as you can see on the picture, we are currently directly present in 7 East European markets, indirectly in 10. And the size of the bank is 16 million clients and 270 billion euros of assets. And the interesting fact is that the main shareholder, or largest shareholder, is the Erste Foundation, which basically also keeps the mission and the focus of the bank still on its original statement of purpose, which actually was to bring prosperity for all in our region. So if we can move to the next slide. I just show you actually what are the main social banking activities of Erste Group. in addition to the regular commercial activities for retail and corporate clients. So as you can see, we have basically 4 main pillars. The one is being supporting job creation, which is basically the first 2 pillars, where we foster and support microfinance activities and financing of starting entrepreneurs. In all of our activities, we always combine financing, so banking products, and non-financial services, being it business training, e-learning, mentoring, capacity building, with the aim to create and preserve jobs in especially in rural areas. The next pillar is supporting social organizations, where we count not only social entrepreneurs and social businesses, but also NGOs, which actually do most of the social work in our region, where we again provide mostly financing combined with capacity building. And the last pillar, which is one of the most difficult things, is to support directly people in financial difficulties. In this topic, we have a special supervised accounts for clients who are in very difficult financial situation that helps them to manage their obligatory payments and not spending the payments which were supposed to be used for utilities or for rent. We have a special bank for that in Austria, which is called Zweite Sparkasse, supporting people in financial difficulties. And then we have some debt advisory programs, social housing programs in some of the countries. And this is actually the first slide where I mention also the interaction with the public sector, because in most of the loans which we provide in social banking, we actually are benefiting from public sector guarantee. Mostly it's easy guarantee, which we contracted with European Investment Fund, but also COSME guarantees, Innofin guarantees in some of the markets. So this helps us to finance these more vulnerable clients in a sustainable way. So that's one of the opportunities also for other social impact investors to benefit from the guarantees. Of course, you would need then to provide loans or kind of a quasi equity, which can be also guaranteed by these public sector guarantees. But I think the precondition is to have certain scale, because the effort connected with contracting the guarantees is not low. So you would need to really have substantial number of beneficiaries to make this effort pay off. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the one of the examples of a kind of a joint venture with public sector that we initiated 1 year ago. It was founded, but the discussions were taking 2 more years before to establish a special purpose vehicle, which is called Affordable Home, where we basically join together with the Slovak Investment Holding, which is a subsidiary of local promotional and guarantee bank in Slovakia. And we have jointly financed with equity this special purpose vehicle called Affordable Home, which actually is buying on the market kind of low-cost apartments or cheaper apartments in the major cities, which are then rented to NGOs who are taking care of homeless people, people without home, and providing them a cheap accommodation in these apartments for rent, which is usually, depending on the city, 30, 40, up to 50% lower than the market rent. So actually, it's kind of focused on this housing first principle, where these organizations actually are providing to people housing at affordable cost. And so we try to scale it. I think we so far bought around 20, 25 apartments. We would like to grow it in pilot to 100 apartments, and then maybe later on also start with development. So that's a kind of a concrete example where we, pari passu, we're investing into a special purpose vehicle for social housing. Of course, here the effort also is quite big. It takes time to negotiate all the conditions to kind of fulfill all the requirements. Please, next slide, which is showing the one of the last projects I would like to actually show, which is a social impact bond, where we are cooperating with the Austrian social ministry on one social problem. So they were running an open tender where we applied with our special company, which is called Erste Social Finance, which is the social finance intermediary of Erste Group, which is providing equity and quasi-equity investments. And basically, we won the tender and structured the social impact bond, which is tackling two issues, two social problems. One being a problem of missing kind of caregivers or care assistants for handicapped and disabled people. And the other social problem actually is the employment of especially women, young mothers with low education after maternity leave. So we are kind of bringing with a social enterprise. Atempo has big experience in this area and also has a digital platform. So they are educating these women who are kind of after maternity would like to start work, but most of them didn't work before and have very low education, also low language skills, German language skills. So they are providing an online digital education, which is in these times, especially of COVID, very helpful because all the physical trainings won't be possible. And then they have a matching platform where actually people who are seeking for this assistance, handicapped or disabled people, can match with those ladies who can provide this service. It's very kind of flexible. So this is also fitting to their current family life with the small kids. And basically the impact which we are measuring there, and which is basically the precondition for the repayment of the investment, which was done by our foundation, Erste Stiftung, who was the funder of the program, is that we need to reach certain number of women with certain number of working hours where they get paid. And that's the target for getting back the investment. So the total volume here was around 300,000 euros. So it's rather a small impact bond. So it's more like a pilot, which will show if this approach would lead to success and be able to increase the low employment rate of this population. Again, a very, very demanding process from the bureaucratical perspective, as you can imagine. So we definitely believe that social impact bonds make sense, but in larger scale. But we kind of intended to take part here to really test the field, to gain some experience, and hope for an extension of this social impact bond to larger volumes in the past. So as a general conclusion, of course, it's not easy to work with public sector because of all the regulations which are connected with that. It's usually a time and demanding process, but definitely the volumes and the scale which can be reached by the cooperation is substantial. So I think the potential is very high. And even though we see many policymakers, especially in CE, still preferring grants to financial instruments, we already see a turnaround, and we hope for more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. It was very interesting. And now I would like to invite you to the breakout rooms. We will have two breakout rooms, one with myself and Peter Surek, and the other one with my colleague, Catalina Papari, that is the Policy Associate of EVPA, and Filippo Munisteri. And after the breakout rooms, we will have a short wrap-up. Hello, everyone. So we are back in a big group. Our discussion was very interesting, but first of all, I'm very curious what my colleague Catalina discovered, what were the questions that have been raised during the big breakout room with the Filippo Munisteri from the European Commission.
Thank you, Bianca. It was actually very short time, 20 minutes passed very, very quick. And we would like, if it's possible, to continue just for maybe 2-3 minutes if the others have questions. I assume that is the same also for your breakout room. So maybe after just explaining a bit the background of our conversation, we can continue further 5-10 minutes together.
Yes.
Filippo was explaining a bit more the role of foundations and concrete actions for foundations under InvestEU and how they can better collaborate also within the framework set by the European Commission, but also with the EIF, European Investment Fund, and EIB, the advisory hub. Filippo also mentioned a bit about some payments by results that they are building together with the EIF, and about another program called Social Impact Accelerator. And maybe also Filippo would like to express and to highlight what is this program about for all of you. We also tackled a bit the role of foundations as advisory parties and financial partners for the EIF and how they collaborate together. As to conclude with one of the main challenges, let's say, for implementing partners and in general also for beneficiaries of the EU funds, that of course it's the heavy regulatory burden that was there, but that is still working on it, and under InvestEU everything is aggregated in a simpler framework. And I think that everything is easier explained there. So more questions. I think also Irene wanted to address something and she really didn't have the chance in the breakout room.
It was going very fast. Before I knew it was done. Yeah, Filippo, thank you for all the explanations. And like I said, we're as Impact City in The Hague, trying to connect as many social entrepreneurs to different kinds of funding options. And it's great to see there's so many options in the InvestEU programs. And I was wondering if there's like an overview or something for, on the one hand, the social entrepreneurs, but also for the intermediary organizations and cities of all the options that there are, and where you cooperate with banks and other financial institutions, and where it's a direct line.
Filippo, I think you are muted.
Yes. Okay, now you should be able to hear me. No, indeed. So as I was saying, for what we have at the moment, the EIF, they have a list of all the financial intermediary at the national level that they use, those being like commercial banks, other entities. So that would be today your first port of call. Now, the ambition of InvestEU, and this, I mean, with Max, we had a number of long interaction about how can we do this better, and going at the local level, our ambition is a little bit to replicate what we are doing at the European level, also at the national level. So, for instance, today you go you go from the Netherlands, you go to the EIF page on the Netherlands, and you see what's there. But tomorrow, on the top of the EIF, you can go also to, I don't know, InvestNL, which has contacted us, like they are exploring what they can do with InvestEU, and you can have a similar approach as you have with the EIF for your own country. So this would be the ambition, because of course what we've done so far, has been working very well with the Juncker plan, of course, but then we don't always manage to capture all the actors that we could capture with a stronger presence at the local level, I would say. And this is valid for financial product, but it's especially more valid for advisory and capacity building, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. There are other questions for Filippo or for Peter?
If you would like, Bianca, also to sum up a bit what was your discussion.
Yes, but since I know that there were some other questions also before, I would like to first hear from you if there are other questions. Otherwise, I will just do a short wrap up what was discussed with Peter Surek in our breakout room. So first of all, I asked to Peter how was the first engagement under the Easy Guarantee, and Peter was explaining that it was was 5 years ago, and then there were quite a lot of time for the negotiation, and sometimes the negotiation can be a bit tough. So the people that want to start this engagement need to be very, very sure. And then there was a very interesting question about the size of the organizations from Francesca from Astifero. And Peter replies that there is the possibilities also for organizations that are small to apply to EU funding, but there is a need of a lot of effort. So you should have also the capacity to face this effort, but then what you will have at the end, so you will reach a great step, and so there is a possibility for scaling up and also at the money level for the organization. So Peter was inviting also the small organization to try and to apply. Then we had an interesting discussion on the role of the financial intermediaries, because there was a question more on if there is a need of consortium to be a financial intermediaries, and then Peter clarified, and I also joined this clarification on the fact that the consortium is needed, but mainly for the grant of the EU institutions, and maybe also Filippo can say a few words on that. But as financial intermediaries, you formally need to apply as your organization, your institutions. There are many kind of financial intermediaries, as we heard also today from Filippo, from his presentation. So that was I was forgetting one of the most important things, that actually Peter is interested also to be like the Erste is interested to be involved on the InvestEU program, and that in particular on the social housing and on the vulnerable group. And there was a very interesting comment also of Alan Barbieri about it, and they would like to follow up also in the future to understand how this process could work. If there aren't other questions, I also would like to...
one question actually, Bianca.
Okay, perfect.
Which is sort of on the point of intermediaries that you were raising. To Peter, because I was curious a little bit about how that evolution happened from having the foundation as well as creating Erste Social Finance, and how the two interplay, but also, you know, whether it was difficult for you to make the business case to create a dedicated intermediary, because I guess especially in the SIP market, that's still quite a small market, right? So be curious, you know, how much was it very much an impact-driven business case, or how much was there also sort of financial viability that was seen by the business?
So this special subsidiary, this Erste Social Finance Holding, actually was created already around 12 years ago. So it was not created for the purpose of being part of the European Union programs or the social impact bonds. It was basically the original idea to create kind of like a parallel network of social finance intermediaries across all the CE markets. And we started with founding a microfinance company in Romania, which is basically still up and running there now under the name of BCR Social Finance. BCR is our local bank. So, but later on, basically, we realized that somehow that it's better to utilize the resources inside the bank. So we run all our social banking activities in other markets inside the bank, and we use this entity only for equity investments into some specific projects. Like I mentioned, this project in Slovakia, together with Slovak Investment Holdings. So there it's also assumed that Erste Social Finance will be investing or co-investing, and we are also now basically starting from this subsidiary a special quasi-equity or subordinated loan facility, which would not make sense to be launched on every of these small markets, but we rather launch it for all the markets from this entity. So as mentioned, it's a joint venture between the foundation and the bank. And let's see what will be the usage of the future. Is being currently still discussed, like what is the strategy and how to utilize this company. But for the time being, it's more like a holding company, which is holding participations.
Thank you very much, Peter. Do you have other questions to address to the speakers? No? So maybe I would like to ask the speakers if they have any comment to add to the discussion. Filippo?
No, not really. I think it was, I tried to do my best to take all these different points especially in the breakout room. It was, I mean, feel free to contact me. Perhaps on the financial intermediary, if you want, I can say a word about how we select the financial intermediaries, if this is relevant. I mean, in the investment guidelines, we are more detailed questions, but more instructions, but basically we rely on the bank through which we act, on the implementing partner, for the selection of the financial intermediaries, like Erste can be, for instance. In that case, they should do a kind of open procedure for selecting those financial intermediaries. So respecting all the principle of open, transparent, and proportionate, non-discriminatory procedures, basically, and avoidance of conflict of interest, all those, and all this. Those are certain rules that we ask our implementing partners to take into account when selecting their own financial intermediaries. But of all this, the final recipients, they don't see anything of all this, of course. It's our internal cuisine, let's say.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, would you like to add a last comment for our audience?
I would just like to encourage all the organizations to explore the potential which is in the collaboration with public sector, because it can provide really a kick for scale, which I think is very much important and needed in this area, because I mean, we are talking now still about our portfolios, which are maybe in millions, but I think we know that the needs are in billions. So in this aspect, I think the collaboration with public sector and scaling up is essential for the future of the sector.
Yeah.
I might address a question if possible. Actually, I just have a curiosity. If both of you, Filippo and Peter, have any advice for foundations, corporate foundations, or in general private actors that haven't interacted so far with the EU institutions or with a public organization, how to start this interaction, and if you have any advice to help them to navigate in the big pool of regulations and this kind of multiple layers for interactions.
But perhaps, I don't know, my experience, of course, again, is with financial instruments type of programs, which, again, I repeat, we have the advantage that the money has to come back. So in terms of admin burden is certainly not a grant program from this point of view. So probably for InvestEU, indeed, the advice I would give is either to start speaking to what can be your national promotional bank in your own country, the EIF, of course. It's another partner. We have the Council of Europe Bank, for instance, which is also interested in our program. This or to speak to well-established operators like Erste, indeed, which have already experience under the easy guarantee, and they have experience with our financial instruments. That they can be a port of access, depending, of course, as a foundation, what do you want to do in terms, how do you want to intervene? Do you want to use your endowment? Or do you want to use the grant part? Do you want to provide capacity building? It depends a little bit, of course, on what you have to offer to the financial intermediary you want to collaborate with, or with the implementing partner you want to collaborate with.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is your last chance for a question. Otherwise, I will have a last comment, and then we will close this very interesting session. Any question? Okay, so thank you very much. I really think that we had an interesting discussion, first of all, and I would like to thank the two speakers, Filippo Munisteri from the European Commission and Peter Surek from Erste Social Finance Holding. And I think all the participants of this session enjoyed. I think we learned a lot, especially on the possibility of collaboration with the institutions, and we learned which are the tools there for us, for you, especially for corporate social investors. And I think you could like using this tool in the future and try to collaborate more with the EU institutions. Thank you very much.